Hi, my name's Will, and this is my presentation talking about the digital sport media industry. In this presentation, I'll be exploring the digital sport media industry, an area that I one day hope to be working in. I conducted an interview with a digital media producer at QPRFC to try and get a first-person account of this developing industry. I'll also be drawing from an array of academic sources to gain further context of what it's like to work as a creative in the present day. My interviewee Jack has worked as a digital content producer at Queen's Park Rangers FC in West London since September 2022. Prior to my interview with Jack, I decided to conduct some of my own research to gain some context around the digital sport media industry. What I found is that it is a relatively new industry that has grown alongside the rise of social media platforms, in particular TikTok. In comparison to other established sites like Facebook and Instagram, TikTok is still relatively new, with the first English football team to have made an account on the site being Liverpool in May 2019. QPR's first post on the platform was on the 17th of June 2020, and since then they have consistently posted a range of content to the account. I noticed that despite a slight dip in the output in 2023 from the previous 2 years, they more than doubled their production in 2024, with 253 videos posted to the account. What might be the reason for this push in short-form content? I'll get to that later, but before that, I want to show you a clip from our interview explaining where Jack's media interest came from.
The very first time I picked a camera up or anything, it was a summer, and basically I did really bad in school that year, and my mum basically grounded me for doing bad in school, and basically we went on holiday at the end of that summer, and my dad had I don't know, it was just some any Sony camera, and basically I hijacked it from him that holiday, and then I don't think he saw it back ever again.
Jack's interest carried on through his education, studying media at both A-levels and university, even writing his dissertation about sports media. However, due to the fact that he graduated during COVID, he had no choice but to begin freelancing. Many factors can be a barrier of entry to young creatives trying to get into the industry. Dammers is able to divide these factors into different groups, such as societal barriers and internal structural barriers. While societal barriers are out of the company's control, neither group are excusable, as both can be accredited as a result of the established beliefs and expectations in the industry. Phrases like Nepo baby are used a lot when describing these type of situations, where one person will get the job purely over another just because of their background and not their skills. When questioned about barriers to entry, Jack referenced lockdown as being the hardest point in his career so far. As I'll get to later, network is a big expectation and necessity in the industry whether you like it or not, and the fact that everyone was in lockdown forced Jack to turn to the alternative of music video freelancing. As McKenzie and McKinley define it, hope labour refers to unpaid or undercompensated labour undertaken in the present, usually for exposure or experience with the hope that the future work may follow. This is yet another reason of embedded beliefs in the industry about entry-level jobs, saying, in order to be successful, you must work for free at some point, whether this is right or whether this is wrong. How is this justified by employers, but more importantly, how is it justified by employees? In my research, I found two key reasons, with those being passion-led projects and creating work for friends and family. In the case of the latter, this is exactly what Jack did when freelancing music videos in 2020. Referring to McKenzie and McKinley's once more, they believe that to be able to get the work, that does mean engaging with people and not being paid for it. This leads me into the discussion around self-exploitations of creative in the industries. Many studies into the matter have shown that creatives are highly susceptible to self-exploitation, as we have already seen with Hope Labour. As Barad and Primorak noted when researching the labour conditions of women in the Croatian design industry, they have worked without contract, they're underpaid, they work long hours and every day of the week. Angela McRobbie argues that this is centred around the idea of individualisation, where each person is responsible for what they do, and as a result, they're to blame for their own failures. This independence and lack of security is what I believe leads to many creatives taking on too much work, subsequently allowing themselves to be exploited in similar conditions to the ones just referenced. Jack's own experiences correlates with this, and he even went as far to say that the demanding aspects of football media is kind of a sacrifice that most people are willing to make going into it. Similar to Hope Labour, many creatives will find ways of justifying overworking themselves, and in Jack's case, it goes back to his passion around the sport. Balancing work and life is a common struggle for those working in the creative industries due to the significant amount of demands it comes with. These demands can lead to feelings of isolation, as noted by Hesmanhold and Baker, despite the regular socialising and networking expectations. Digital sport media is no different. He emphasised how much of a commitment it really is. To put it into perspective, over the 2-week schedule when we spoke during the busy Christmas period, himself and the media team had 10 games to create content for, whether that be written, print or video. And in between this, he also had to find time for 2 Christmas parties. Regarding feelings of isolation created by the work-life power dynamic, he's a strong believer of working in person, as he believed working from home could not only lead to people falling into this pit of isolation, but it would also prevent creativity. Lastly, he spoke about how in his first year of working in football, he realised that he was falling out of love with the very thing that got him to that position, and stressed the importance of having interests outside of your job.
I started playing football like once a week, and all of a sudden I just stopped, and I was like, I don't know why, but it's just because I purely couldn't do it anymore. Like, I was working in football, watching football, playing football, and it's like, it gets to a point where you talk to other people who aren't interested in it, and you can't talk about anything else apart from that.
I couldn't base my presentation around digital sport media and not speak about digital labour. Jack raised an interesting point about how since post-COVID, people have been getting increasingly confused between professionals who work in the industry and online influencers. He believes that this has made entry into the industry much more difficult than when he first entered, and links it with changing audience tastes, with people preferring short-form content over high-quality long-form, which is more like he's used to producing.
I think people are mixing or getting confused with a TikTok type of video and like a feature-length type of video, because I don't know whether it's people's like attention spans or whether they don't want to consume like high-quality stuff anymore. But I don't know. Like, I think it's definitely harder now to get into media.
This can be backed up with industry research showing that there is a push for short-form content, particularly with the younger audience demographic, with fans preferring to watch clips and/or highlights as opposed to full games. All of this, as well as the added pressure of the industry becoming more and more saturated, leaves Jack feeling pressure when producing content to the 1.5 million followers that QPR have across Instagram, Facebook, X and TikTok. AI has undoubtedly been the word on everyone's lips in the industry over the past few years, and the nature of its growth has meant that it has been able to sneak into areas of the industry that would not be thought possible, one of which being digital sport media. Whilst many hold pessimistic views about the effects of AI in the future of media, Jack holds a positive one and listed 2 instances of having already used it at QPR.
I think the longer that you kind of resist using it, the more you're going to have the mindset of this taking over your job. Do you know what I mean? Because like, you can either work with it or against it, and it looks as if you're working against it, it's probably not going to work out in your favour, to be honest.
His point about using it as a tool as opposed to viewing it as his replacement falls perfectly into Cow's argument, which throws any fears of it out the window by stating that humans continue to dominate algorithms in terms of judgment, interpretation, creativity and communication. To conclude my presentation, here are some of the key points that I took away from my interview with Jack, from my wider reading and my industry research. Entrance to the industry is made much more difficult now due to the saturation of it. Sports media takes a toll on the work-life balance, and you have to be willing to sacrifice a lot. No matter how passionate you are, it's important to have other hobbies away from your job. The industry is still growing. Audiences are preferring short-form content to long-form, and experience and passion can excuse working for free only for so long, as you need to turn skills into a wage. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Here is my bibliography with all of my readings and other sources.